The letter is folded in thirds, a hospital crease with edges softened by my father's hands. He presses it into my palm like a confession. "It came this morning," he says, "from your brother." Rain needles the window behind him. The radiator ticks, a tired metronome. There's the hum of a distant vacuum and the sweet coffee smell the CNAs carry back from their break. I'm still holding the pudding cup I brought, but my appetite disappears when I see the first line. "Your brother told me you put me here to steal my money." I don't speak. My father looks past my shoulder to the parking lot we can't enter without a code. He is 80, shrinking into a cardigan I bought on clearance, a neat navy. He always liked navy. His wedding band circles a finger thinned by months of small meals and white pills. Drops bend down the glass like commas that never end. "I didn't know you felt that way," he says. His voice is not accusing. It is cautious, like a man who found a snake in the tool shed. "I don't," I say, but it lands thin. He sets his hands on his lap, veined and careful. "You did so much," he says, searching for a safe sentence. "The tours, the lists, you said this place was nice." I hear myself months ago practicing the sales pitch. 6-to-1 patient ratio. Occupational therapy twice a week. Window that faces the oak. No mildew smell. A dining room with real napkins. A bed that inclines so he can breathe easier when the Florida pollen migrates north and sneaks in on coats. I had spreadsheets. I had 3 facilities priced out, insurance columns in yellow, asterisks for the line items families forget. $6,870 per month at this one, before incidentals. $9 for a haircut in the on-site barber chair. $1.50 per load if I want his laundry done here instead of at home. I went to the tour on my lunch break and hid in the bathroom to cry because the soap smelled like the church where we buried my mother. I didn't put him here to steal his money. I put him here because he fell twice in 2 weeks and called the mailbox the microwave. Because the stove forgot to turn itself off and the house flirted with disaster at 2 a.m. Because I am a mother to 3 and my youngest still forgets where his shoes go, and my husband works nights loading pallets, and I am 48 with a bad knee and a good calendar. Because care is a full-time job that comes with no clock out. But the letter says what it says. His eyes go to the paper, then to me, as if the words are a third person sitting between us. I unfold it. My brother's tone lives in the commas. "You know Joan," he writes. "She always liked to be in charge of things. She always liked to keep the checkbook. She acts like she knows best." There's a postscript about a friend from church who says home care would have been better. No name, no offer to cover the cost. Just a picture painted in slippery strokes. My father shifts, and for a moment the years stack. I see him upright and sure, winter coat and work gloves. The man who built me a bookcase when I was 9, who used to hammer through weekends, who taught me how to wire a lamp, how to carry a level, how to square a corner. Now he blinks as if trying to focus a camera that's lost its auto. "Did you read it all?" he asks, and I hand it back. "I read enough," I say. He folds it carefully, twice, then stops, like his muscles remember precision even when his mind can't find the screws. "I don't like fighting," he murmurs. "Your brother said he could take me home. He said he has space." I picture the space. My brother's house is small and always in motion. 2 teens, a big dog, a garage that never holds both cars. He is charming on bar stools, and at barbecues, owns a smile that looks like a promise. He doesn't own a calendar. He doesn't own a blood pressure cuff. He doesn't own the midnight shift or the pharmacy line when the insurance kicks back a refill and you're already down to 2 pills. He doesn't own wet sheets or chairs with rising seats or the kind of patience that looks boring until it saves a life. But he knows how to write a letter that sounds like love. I set the pudding on the sill and sit on the vinyl visitor chair that squeaks like a small bird. "I chose this place because it keeps you safe," I say. My voice is a step stool, functional, not tall enough to make me proud. "I know," he replies. The words settle, but not completely. He fidgets with the edge of the blanket, the way he used to pull weeds to the white thread of their roots. Silence thickens. Rain has its own agenda. In the hallway, someone says lunch trays, and wheels squeal. A nurse peeks in, smiles, retreats. I think of all the lists on my refrigerator. The dentist next Tuesday. PTA fundraiser. Sign up. Dad, check batteries in his hearing aid. I think of the checks I wrote last year when the house needed a new roof and my brother said he'd get a guy, and the guy never came, and I used my tax refund to stop the leak over Dad's bed. I think of the nights I fell asleep in my car outside this building because I couldn't drive home right away from the ache. I think of how my brother didn't show for the assessment meeting, but texted a thumbs up when I sent the summary. I think of the way love can be rewritten when the reader is tired and the ink is persuasive. I didn't put you here to take anything from you, I say, trying again. I put you here to keep what we have left. He watches the rain. His cheeks sag in a way that reminds me of melting candles. I'm sorry, he whispers, as if he wrote the letter himself. I got scared. There is a small grief in realizing that fear is a stronger author than memory. I take his hand, warm and papery, and I let the silence be the kind of prayer that isn't asking for anything. The radiator ticks like a clock we don't believe. He squeezes my fingers twice, our old signal from when I got nervous at the dentist. I'm here. I'm here. When he releases, I pick up the letter and slide it back into its envelope. The paper is heavier now, carrying things it didn't carry when the mailman brought it. Do you want me to talk to him? I ask. He nods, a careful nod. A man who's carried lumber that didn't look heavy until it was. I don't like fighting, he repeats. I know, I say. I do it so you don't have to. We sit until the rain becomes a mist, until the oak shakes off its silver and returns to green. He opens the pudding and eats 3 slow bites, then forgets what it is and lays the spoon back down. I clean the lid with a napkin and tuck it into the trash. There's a shape to every betrayal. This one is an envelope full of implications, carried by a man who still trusts my hands but no longer trusts his eyes. At the door, I press the code. The lock clicks with the sound of a decision. My phone is already in my palm, the number already pulled up, the words I never wanted to say forming like weather over a field. I step into the hallway, where the air smells like lemon and something sterilized. The first ring feels like a step onto a cold floor. When my brother's voice answers, easy and bright, I realize this will not be a conversation. It will be the first boundary I draw like a line in wet cement. And because some lies need light more than argument, I breathe once, steady, and begin. The call connects, and I'm already walking, counting the ceiling tiles like a rosary. His voice is sunshine on a voicemail. Quote, no wait, no awareness of the paper he catapulted into our father's hands. I just left Dad's room, I say. My tone is a level on wood, trying to find true. A pause. Oh yeah? Quote, he is the type to step around puddles he made. You sent him a letter, I say. Quote, I hear the squeak of his back door, the thud of a dog's tail on cabinets, the clink of a glass. He's in his kitchen. He's free. Quote, he laughs, like we're at a barbecue and I miscounted plates. Quote, options like guilt, I say. Quote, he sighs, air moving through a man who doesn't like friction. Quote, it's what he read, I answer. A CNA with silver hoops wheels a cart past me, plates domed with chrome lids, steam fingerprinting the metal. I step into the family lounge, empty except for a vending machine and a ficus that looks like it's trying to be brave. You wrote that I like to be in charge, I continue. Quote, he swallows, quote, because you asked me to after Mom died, I say. Quote, silence snaps between us, then the smile again, audible. Quote, I just think he'd be happier at my place. Quote, the girls are at school until 4, I say. You work daytime shifts when you can get them. Don't be gross, he says. Don't be naive, I answer. The vending machine hums like a bored judge. There's a bag of peanut M&Ms stuck in the coil, someone's dollar hanging in limbo. You wrote a letter to an 80-year-old with memory fog. I say, slower now. Quote, my voice goes quiet, a low beam in a foggy night. You took the trust we have and you winked at it. Quote, he tries a new street. Quote, it sounds like an apology that got dressed as a favor. You're offering to be seen as a hero, I say, and the truth lands without ornament. Quote, he laughs again, a little too bright. Quote, he calls me sensitive when he wants me to shut up. He calls me organized when he wants me to work. There is a math to this. I am the sum that always balances the books he spills. I paid the deposit. I say, quote, it's not about the money, he says. It's always about the money. I reply, also the bathing, also the fact that he called the mailbox the microwave, also the pills. Quote, he clears his throat. Quote, he told me he felt safe. I say, quote, the vending machine light flickers and holds. He tries the last card in his deck. Quote, there it is. A small, ugly truth that we both know is not a truth, but a feeling that got fed. I let it sit. Maybe he thinks it will bruise me enough to change course. It does not. He loved who showed up. I say, quote, a beat. A dog barks. He pulls a breath through his teeth. Joan, I could take him, he says, sliding into tenderness like a man slipping into a jacket that doesn't quite fit. I could clear out the office, put a bed in the air, pick up a shower chair from Dad's place. Quote, he's proud of the number, as if price makes a plan. Shower chairs are not care plans, I say, quote, he exhales, quote, I'm the medical POA, I say, and I pulled that form out because Mom handed it to me the year she had her first fainting spell. Remember that? The bathroom tile. The ambulance. Quote, he goes quiet. Sometimes history is not a weapon, but a mirror. You're making me the bad guy, he says. His voice shrinks, or maybe it shows its true size. You wrote a letter that turned my love into a scheme, I say. Quote, footsteps pass the lounge, rubber soles, low conversation, a laughter that sounds like relief after a tough shift. I look down at my shoes, brown flats with worn insoles, 99 last fall, still holding. I need you to do 3 things, I say, and I hear my tone shift from sister to supervisor to someone who is done auditioning for mercy. Quote, he laughs, softer, quote, they're how we keep from drowning, I say, quote, he hesitates. Then the shape of his pride rises, a familiar tide. Quote, no, I say, quote, he bristles, quote, you don't know me as well as you think, I say, quote, he is quiet, the dog barks again, quote, when he comes back, the sugar is gone from his voice. Fine, he says, quote, good, I answer, quote, he says nothing. I listen to his breath. I picture his face, the way he blinks when he's cornered, the boy who learned early that charm is a ladder. Joan, he says, softening for the close, quote, we are, I say, quote, I end the call before he can turn my firmness into another circle. We walk forever. My thumb hovers over the screen as if it still holds heat. I look at the ficus. Its leaves are glossy, determined to be green under fluorescent light. I put $1 in the vending machine and buy the stuck M&Ms with the one behind them. They both drop. I leave one on the table. Someone will think it's a gift. I pocket the other, a small sweetness earned by gravity. When I step back into the hall, the air smells like lemon and chicken noodle soup. Rain slackens, then stops. My father's door is half open. He is asleep in the chair, mouth soft. The envelope on the tray table like a bird that forgot how to fly. I slide it into my bag. A souvenir for the day I learned betrayal can be handwritten and still feel like a shove. I touch his shoulder. The note is not a war. It's a guardrail. A nurse nods, grateful. I feel the first square of ground under my feet that doesn't wobble. Quote, I sit in my car with the engine off and the heater ticking down. Rain rests like a film on the windshield. The letter is in my bag, humming like a live wire. I open the notes app I made months ago called Dad Care, and I start a new page. Title after the letter. Bullets arrive faster than my thumbs can keep up. Call bank. Alerts on all activity. Freeze. Checkbook at house. Set pin only withdrawals at $100 per day. Add me as text alert contact. I breathe. Small systems feel like rope in a flood. I call the bank from the parking lot, the lemony air still in my lungs. A patient voice asks for the POA, PDF. 1 minute of hold music, a bell curve of violins, then a decision that moves the day an inch. Text alerts set. M withdrawals flagged. She is 45, kind eyes, shoes that say she has lived whole months on her feet. I wrote that note in his chart, she says. Her voice is confident, without noise. Quote, thank you, I say, and my chest moves easier. She asks gently if I want to speak to the social worker about a family meeting. I nod. We stand at the edge of a new thing. My phone buzzes. ATM at Oakview Fuel. I feel the click of a puzzle piece. That station is 3 blocks from my brother's house. I ask for the 60-day print again out of habit. Then I stop. We don't punish ourselves with multiples. I step into a quiet alcove where a printer coughs out paper the old-fashioned way and a calendar on the wall still believes in kittens. The fax arrives in faded gray. I scan the columns with a scanner's eye. 2 withdrawals at ATMs we've never used. 3 purchases at a sports bar I don't know. Dates anchor themselves. The same afternoons, my brother sent charming texts. Stopped by to see the old man. Quote, I mark them with a small dot. I don't jump to conclusions. I collect. Sandra's hand is gentle on my elbow. She asks. I nod. She makes one, slides it in a manila folder. I write on the tab, bank 60 days. On the drive home, a sliver of sunlight releases out from behind the cloud cover like a promise it can't keep. The neighborhood wears rain like a sigh. I turn down our street, past Mrs. Blakely's porch with the wind chimes, past the house with the hydrangeas that always manage blue, like it's a miracle they pull off quietly. Inside, I start a binder. It is the same brand I used to sort spelling worksheets when the kids were little. White, clear pocket front. I print a cover page, Dad, Care and Finances. I slide the letter in a page protector, not because it's precious, but because it needs to be contained. I add the bank. I pencil in visits for me, for my husband, for my brother, if he shows up like a man, not a letter. I put a star on Fridays, my work from home day, the day I can take Dad to sit outside if the weather lets us, and he can co-pilot the clouds. The phone rings. It's Mrs. Patel from the Elder Law Clinic. She has a voice that sounds like it wears a sweater. I had emailed her 2 months ago in the early uncertainties. She squeezes me into her Friday morning. I can't give advice over the phone, she says, but bring documents. Quote, I look at my binder, and for the first time all day I smile without pain. After dinner, after the kids wipe down the table and my husband packs his lunch for the night shift, 2 ham sandwiches and a banana that always comes home half-eaten, I drive to Dad's house. I need the mail. The porch bulb flickers like it's giving a testimony. The lock sticks, as it always did, a place you could rely on to be difficult. Inside, the air smells like old coffee and pine cleaner. My mother in a bottle. I put on dish gloves and open the stack on the little wood table by the door. Coupons for hearing aids. A card from Cousin Emile with 3 lines of perfect cursive. 2 envelopes from the insurance that hold nothing but warnings disguised as updates. And 1 familiar thing, a yellow legal pad with my brother. Pros. Kids love it. Saves $, family together. Cons. No room, bathing, chair, work schedule. Then, underline 3 times, mortgage relief. Below that, in smaller letters, as if he wanted to hide a thought from himself, pension direct. I run a finger under the words without touching them. In the kitchen, I find the coffee mug he always used, the Mets one from '96, and I wash it for no reason other than to do one thing that returns a surface to clean. I open the freezer. 3 TV dinners, frost-burned. A bag of peas that have become a slab. I make a list for the next groceries I will buy even though he no longer lives here. Paper towels, light bulbs, soup. My mother's voice floats up from a place I used to ignore because it hurt. Quote, on the way out, I stop by the garage. The bookcase he built me when I was 9 leans against the wall. The paint is chipped, blue with a little white. I remember the weight of those shelves as he carried them down the hallway, telling me to watch my toes. He was a man who measured twice and cut once. He is a man who folds a letter slowly because precision is a muscle memory. The line between those two men is my job now. When I get home, it's after 9. The youngest is asleep on the couch with a book on his chest. My husband nods at me from the doorway, lunch pail in hand. He asks, "The question is a blanket." "I will be," I say. He knows better than to press hope into something that still has seams. He kisses my forehead and tucks a stray hair behind my ear like we are still 20. After he leaves, the house settles into the This is me putting the truth in writing. You are safe where you are. I chose it because you fall. Because you forget, because you are still the same man who taught me to carry the level, and the level says this is straight. You did not make me a thief, you made me a builder. I will show you the binder tomorrow. We can add stickers to it if you want. I sign it. Then I laugh at myself a little because I am writing a letter to a man who needs the truth in a voice, not a page. Still, I fold it and slide it behind the clear cover. A talisman. My phone buzzes. A text from my brother, late. Quote, "No emoji, no flourish, a flat sentence structure that feels like a man holding himself on a leash." Quote, I circle it in red. Before bed, I stand at the sink and watch the dark window reflect my face. 48 looks like a woman who put a line in wet cement today. I breathe in. It almost feels like a full breath. A small thought floats up, like a shy fish in clear water. I'm not alone. The binder is a quiet witness. The bank alerts will ring when something tilts. The director is a guardrail. Quote, "And Dad squeezed my hand twice. I'm here. I'm here." I turn off the kitchen light and leave the little one above the stove on. A night light for the house, a promise I can keep. And as I slide into bed and the rain returns as a soft patter, I realize I've begun to trade shame for structure, fear for a ledger that tells the truth without shouting. Tomorrow I will bring the binder. Tomorrow I will start the conversation that doesn't collapse, because reckoning isn't noisy. It's steady. It's documentation and kindness held in the same hand. It's the courage to become boring in a family that thinks drama is love. And in the quiet, I feel it, the tug of the next step, the one that will test the shape of this new spine I've grown. Sunday arrives with the kind of sunshine that makes people forgive each other too quickly. His voice has a grin in it, the one he used when I had new school supplies. We sit at a round table by the window. The oak outside has put on its brightest green, showy as a parade. Quote, the letter in a sleeve, behind it, my own one-line note to him. I read it aloud. He nods. Builder, he repeats. I turn the page to the bank statements. I trace the columns with a pen cap, not touching, just guiding. These are the notifications, I say. Quote, he squints. I don't say my brother's name. I don't need to. Dad looks up, and his face changes the way weather does when the clouds remember their power. He reaches for my hand and squeezes, once, then twice. Before I can sit in that small comfort, my brother breezes in, carrying 2 paper bags. They are heavy with intention. Groceries, he announces. His voice is auditorium level for a room that lives at library. He sets the bags down on our table as if he's reclaiming it. Quote, he kisses Dad's head, a casual affection that photographs well. He looks at me and then looks at the binder, and I watch him decide whether to pretend it isn't there. He smiles, quote, he pulls out a bunch of bananas like proof, quote, he's charming when he's provisioning. He forgets that care is not a picnic. Thanks, I say, because a true thing costs me nothing. Then I tilt the binder toward him. Quote, he reads my tone like a signpost he doesn't want to obey. He jokes, only if you'd like to confess something, I say. Dad squeezes my hand again, a whisper of support. My brother's eyes flick to the bank pages and then away. He lifts the bananas and studies the curve like they might hold advice. Come on, Joan, he says, quote, Sandra arrives with a file folder, and the social worker, Darren, a tall, calm person whose presence makes the room feel like it has more edges to lean on. We all take seats. Dad remains where he is, the binder a book he authored and forgot. Sandra begins with the staff tone that could move a mountain into a better place without bruising it. Quote, my brother nods, quote, Darren folds his hands, waits for silence to settle, and then opens a notebook. I'd like to review how decisions are made, he says. Quote, I slide the POA copy across the table. Sandra glances. Darren glances. My brother doesn't. He is fishing for a different topic. Joan and I both care, he says. Quote, Darren nods in a way that says, heard, without giving it a medal. He asks, quote, my brother gestures toward himself. Me, he says, quote, his confidence is cheap and therefore expensive. Darren continues, quote, my brother glances at me like a kid who just discovered the test has more than one question. Sandra asks, quote, he shifts, quote, Sandra's eyebrows lift 1 millimeter. She asks, quote, kids can be wonderful companions, Darren says, gentle but precise, quote, we let the sentence sit. It smells like truth. I slide the bank statements forward, not as a weapon, but as a weather report. We also need to address withdrawals from Dad's account this week, I say, single quote, quote. I keep my voice even. Darren watches my brother's face with the kind of attention that makes lying expensive, too. My brother laughs. It comes out wrong. I grabbed cash to pick up groceries, he says. He taps the paper bags like they're exhibits. Quote, Sandra makes a note. Any change should go back into the account, she says. Quote, I lay the yellow legal pad page down, a photocopy I took last night. Pros, cons, mortgage relief, pension direct. I don't say a word. I let the handwriting do its quiet treachery. My brother's jaw flexes. Annoyance, not shame. We are in familiar territory. He goes to the well. You always have to make me the jerk, he says. Quote, Darren turns to him with the patient attention of someone who has rescued people using only silence and a pen. This isn't about character, he says. Quote, my brother leans back. He eyes the ceiling tiles. He is calculating the cost of being the hero versus the cost of being supervised. He chooses a third path. I'll sign the schedule, he says, as if he is granting a favor. Quote, Sandra slides the caregiver schedule across, where I've filled in squares with pencil. He picks up the pen, twirls it, then signs. Darren writes down the agreement with dates and times. Quote, my brother raises his eyebrows. Quote, you've earned the supervision, I say. We both have, I add, because humility is a solvent that keeps stubbornness from hardening into amber. He shrugs. Quote, they're Dad's safety rules, I say. The cooking show behind us crescendos into applause, as if the souffle of our family has risen. Dad blinks at the noise and claps along, delighted without context. It breaks my heart and mends something at the same time. After the meeting, my brother asks to speak to me in the hallway. We step out. The air is cooler here. The lemons smell less sweet. He looks at me. Really looks, for the first time in a long time. You hate me, he says. It's not a question. I swallow. I hate what you did, I say. Quote, he nods, but it is not agreement. It is the nod of a man practicing being someone else. He steps closer, lowers his voice into intimacy like it's clothing he can put on and take off. Dad told me once he worried you'd turn into Mom, he whispers, tight, controlling. Quote, the words are designed to slip under skin. They always were. He waits for the flinch. He doesn't get it. Mom held us together, I say. Quote, he stares at me. The old script isn't working. He tries a new line, one that reaches for pity. I'm just scared, he admits. It leaks out of him like air from a tire. Good, I say, and I mean it kindly. Quote, he laughs, soft and bitter. Quote, no, I say. Quote, he looks at the grocery bags, at the binder, at the door with the code. He runs a hand through his hair. We'll see, he says. It is not a threat. It is a man's uncertainty dressed as nonchalance. He leaves with his hands empty. He came for glory and left with vegetables. Back in the common room, I find Dad watching a new show about renovating kitchens no one cooks in. He pats the chair next to him. He asks. His eyes are clear for once. Good enough, I say. We eat the bakery bread, and he dips it in his pudding like the rules changed when I wasn't looking. I make a note to bring butter next time. He puts his hand over mine. Builder, he says again, as if the word is a nail he likes to pound because it makes a sound he trusts. On my way out, Sandra stops me. Be careful about the cash withdrawals, she says quietly. Quote, her kindness is a step I didn't know I needed. Thank you, I say. In the parking lot, the sun is still too bright for what just happened. It makes me squint until tears happen without sadness. I let the light do what it does. I sit in the car and text my husband, meeting done, schedule signed, quote. He replies, proud of you, quote. I laugh. I didn't know a sentence could feel like a porch light turning on. On the drive home, wind lifts the leftover rain from the trees. It looks like forgiveness. It isn't. It's physics. But still, it feels like a blessing offered without words. At a red light, my phone buzzes. A new alert. Declined attempt at withdrawal. ATM, incorrect PIN. I smile. Systems are small and unsexy, but today they are a shield. I put the car in drive. The binder rides shotgun like a friend. I think about what comes next, about making space for more than defense, because surviving is not the same as living. And tomorrow, if the weather holds, I will take Dad outside and ask him about the bookcase he built, and we will talk about level lines and the way wood remembers where it wants to go. And I will begin the part where I build something for me. Quote, photos of the bookcase, of the crooked swing set he corrected, of the kitchen shelf he trimmed to fit a jar I loved. I hold the screen between us. He leans in, breath soft with mint and thyme. That was good wood, he says. His eyes find something steady. Pine, quote. I laugh because the memory is clean enough to hold with bare hands. It was blue, I say. He nods, earnest. Quote, we sit with the oak, listening to leaves tell their quiet version of applause. I take a breath I don't have to force. Then I open the binder on my lap, like a picnic. Tabs like flags. Schedule, contacts, bank, legal. Dad, I say, quote. He blinks, absorbing a storm as if it's a forecast for another town. Good, he says. He is proud of the word when he says it right. Quote, I show him the letter Mrs. Patel drafted this morning. Clean language that isn't angry but is firm. Revocation of access for any non-PO8 to financial instruments. Payment arrangements. Facility trust. We'll keep $50 in a labeled pouch for ice creams at the community parlor, and exactly nothing loose enough to invite somebody's courage to wobble. I slide the letter away. The air loosens. We watch the robin pull a worm with a workman's focus. He points. Hungry, he says. There's relief in simplicity. On Tuesday, I take the morning off and call the locksmith. $129 for rekeying the front and back doors. $15 per copy. I keep 2 keys on my ring and give one to the neighbor who watched us move here in 1991 and still leaves pie. It takes 10 minutes and removes a jungle I've been hacking at with a butter knife. I put the receipt in the binder. $25 opening deposit. I feel something click in my chest, a hinge settling. On Wednesday, I buy butter for the bread at the fancy grocery because Dad makes that sound when sugar and milk and lids in small tubs appear. Quote, when I bring it to him, he grins like a kid and dips his bread with reverence. I take a video and text it to my brother and the girls. Quote, "This is the kind of attention I can welcome. Small, true, not performative. On Thursday, I split the binder. One copy stays at the facility in a locked drawer in Sandra's office. One stays with me. I carry it in a tote bag that used to hold soccer cleats and oranges. Now it holds proof of love in paper form. I hadn't expected paper to feel spiritual. It does. In the afternoon, a woman from Activities invites Dad to a woodworking circle. Balsa planes and birdhouses, low stakes, high pride. He holds sandpaper like an old friend and rubs a block as if he's granting it patience. I sign him up every other Friday after lunch. I put it on the schedule and text my brother an invitation to join. He replies, "Maybe," which in his mouth usually means no. I circle it anyway. I laugh out loud because sometimes the universe leaves jokes where you can reach them. When I get home, I tell my husband. He lifts me in a hug that's half dance, half hold. "You'll be good at that," he says, into my hair. Quote, "It feels radical to archive my own life next to his." Saturday, we test the new shape of family. My brother arrives with the girls for his scheduled visit. He's on time. He carries a real plan, a list of errands, questions for Sandra about dental coverage, a thought about swapping Wednesday for Tuesday when his shift changes next month. He is still himself. Charming, quick to defend, but the schedule holds us like guardrails on a curve. The girls braid Dad's fingers with bright yarn, laughing when he holds the ends and pretends to steer. I make coffee in the pantry kitchen and let them have the room. I stand with Sandra and talk about budget lines and the kind of weather that means we keep folks inside. When my brother emerges, he looks older in a new way, not weary, accountable. We walk to the elevator together. He clears his throat. I call. He waits for applause he isn't going to get. I give him something better. "Thank you," I say. We ride down in silence until the doors open to a lobby scenting of lemon and visiting hours. Quote, I write small things. Declined ATM attempt. Pension direct deposit complete. Ceramics class enrolled. Dad smiled at buttered bread. Brother arrived on time. They look like crumbs. Together, they look like a trail. On Sunday, I take Dad to the courtyard again. We look at the oak. Its branches are a map of persistence. I pull a small blue level from my tote, the one he gave me when I moved into my first apartment with a slanted floor and windows that sang in storms. It fits in his hand like a stone you keep for luck. I set it on the arm of the bench and let the bubble calm in the middle. He watches, delighted, he says, pointing to the bubble. Quote, I nod. The word feels like an altar. We talk about nothing and everything. The Mets in '96, the time we got stuck in traffic and sang to keep from yelling, the way a shelf needs anchors and a heart needs practice. He is clear today. He is present. He is the man who carried the other end of the bookcase. When he grows tired, I wheel him back inside, tuck the blanket around his knees, and set the level on his tray like a souvenir from a foreign country where everything is steady. On the way out, I stop at the front desk to leave a thank you card for Sandra. Quote, I don't have extra money, but I have gratitude, and sometimes that spends better. At home, I put a load of towels in the wash and stand at the kitchen window. The light is that pre-evening honey. The smell of meatloaf fills the corners. For a quiet minute, my life is only this room and what it contains. A boy's laughter from the other side of the wall. The clink of ice in a glass. The mild hum of a refrigerator that refuses to die. I think of forgiveness and realize I've been carting it around like a big, dramatic word, when what it looks like, for me, is the absence of vigilance. It is the willingness to believe a text that says, on my way, without a backup plan. It is turning my phone face down during ceramics and trusting the world will not catch fire without my watching. It is letting the binder be enough. We leave it there, no exegesis, no invitation for the old argument to come home. The night arrives with soft rain again. Quote, I've add a sheet and write one sentence. I am more than the person who keeps everyone else from falling. The ink dries slowly. I blow on it like a wish, and as I close the cover, the house holds me without demanding anything. The oak outside tightens its green. The robin goes to bed with a belly full. I feel a click inside my chest, like a drawer sliding onto its rails for the first time in years. Tomorrow, I will walk into the studio and touch wet clay and make something that remembers the shape of my hands. And that simple, generous act of making will open a window big enough for the past to finally exhale. The ceramics studio smells like wet earth and possibility. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and hands like maps, shows us how to wedge clay, push, fold, turn, until the air bubbles. I press my palms into the cool slab. It pushes back like a conversation where both people finally listen. At the wheel, the world narrows to spin and breath. She leans over my shoulder. Quote, her voice is quiet, a mothering that doesn't cost her sleep. Quote, the clay wobbles under my hands like a life that forgot its axis. I breathe, elbows into hips, and the wobble fades. A circle finds itself. There is a moment where the clay stops being an argument and becomes a pulse. The wheel hums like a secret I can keep. Good, she says. Quote, I press my thumbs down, slow, feeling for the bottom without breaking through. Not too deep, she murmurs. Quote, a base that holds. I file the sentence into the binder in my mind where I keep the new truths. Around me, the room is gentle static. Small laughter, a dropped tool, water finding the floor. I pull the walls up, steady, then slow, then still. The shape is humble and patient, a bowl for a life that has stopped leaking. Later, at the sink, she shows me how to clean the wheel. Leave it better than you found it, she says. Quote, she hands me a sponge. I recognize the shape of a lesson disguised as a task. When I get home, the house feels lighter, as if someone opened a window I didn't notice. I set the practice bowl on the counter. It is not pretty. It is honest. My husband turns it in his hands, admiration softening his face. Look at this, he says, as if I brought him a sunrise. He puts it down like an artifact. Quote, I laugh. Quote, he puts a banana in it. It is instantly useful. The next day, I bring the bowl to Dad. He holds it with the awe we reserve for things that took time. He asks, not yet, I say. Quote, he nods, serious. Quote, we set it on his tray table and drop in 2 wrapped butters and a peppermint for after lunch. He grins. Treasure, he says. I text a photo to my brother and the girls. The girls send hearts. Quote, Sandra passes by, glances at the bowl, and smiles like a woman who has seen hundreds of families and still loves when they make a vessel for their hope. Nice, she says. Quote, in the afternoon, Darren meets with us briefly to check on the schedule. My brother arrives on time again, hair damp like he rushed. He asks a gentle question about Dad's sore knee and writes the answer down instead of trusting his charm to remember. When he looks at me, the old mischief is quieter. He is still himself, but he is learning to keep his elbows in, hands steady, pressure even. After the meeting, he lingers at the window. The oak flickers in the wind. He clears his throat. I told the girls the truth, he says, not looking at me. Quote, it is not eloquent. It is enough. Thank you, I say. I'm trying, he adds. It's the confession I didn't know I needed. Me too, I say. He nods, relieved that I didn't place him under a microscope when all he brought was a flashlight. That night, I lie in bed and watch the ceiling shift with passing headlights. Forgiveness arrives like weather, quietly, after the front has passed. It is not a feeling that absolves. It is a muscle that releases. I think of Mom, the bathroom tile, the ambulance, the way we never once asked who drove her to those quiet appointments and sat with her in rooms where the air smelled like antiseptic and courage. We just let her do it. We let her be the hinge that didn't squeak. I whisper a thank you into the dark and feel ridiculous until the thank you echoes back as relief. In the morning, I write a note and 2 lines as if they were instructions for centering clay. Later, Mom's neighbor leaves a pie on the porch. Blueberries stain the crust like history that refuses to stay hidden and still manages to be sweet. I take a slice to Dad. He eats it slowly, blue at the corners of his mouth, delighted like a boy after a ball game. He asks for the level. I set it on the tray. He watches the bubble calm, and he smiles, reverent. True, he says. We sit in companionable quiet. A new nurse I haven't met brings his meds. She shakes the cup like a bell. Hi, Frank, she says. He looks at her and says, "Builder," and she laughs because she thinks it's a nickname. I think it's a benediction. On Friday, the woodworking circle hums. Dad sands the edge of a birdhouse kit. My brother shows up with coffee and no audience. He listens when the activities coordinate at home. The bowl dries on the counter, a soft gray waiting for color. I look at it as I pack my tote for the next day. Binder, level, butter. A paperback I'll pretend to read and instead use as a prop to signal the world that what we're doing is ordinary. The truth is, the ordinary is the miracle, because the center held, not because I forced it, because I learned where to press and when to let go. That night, I text my brother, quote, I stare at the two words, small as seeds. I believe them enough to set them in soil. I do not dig them up every hour to check for roots. I put my phone down and go to bed without laying my armor out on the chair. In the morning, I wake to rain that sounds like peace. I pour coffee and watch it steam like something letting go. I think of clay and oak and bank statements and blue levels and kitchen bowls and women with silver hair who teach you to clean the corners you can't see. I think of my father's hand squeezing mine. Twice, I'm here. I'm here. And I realize the insight is simple and hard. I cannot make other people trustworthy, but I can make my life a vessel that holds. Tomorrow, I will glaze the bowl blue with a little white, and I will bring it to Dad, and we will name it for what it is, a shape we made together from blue with a little white. The bowl is bisque, dry, chalky, receptive. I dip it, hands steady, breath quiet. When it emerges, it looks like nothing yet. Glazes are shy until fire. I set it on the cart with the others. Quote, I leave it blank. Some things learn better at the pace that doesn't bruise. 2 days later, the kiln lid lifts like a low sunrise, and the pieces show their true faces. My bowl is a bright lake where sky forgot to be separate, blue with a little white, yes, and a thin run down one side where heat pulled the color into something like a river. I hold it to my chest for a second longer than the room requires. Then I wrap it in newspaper. On the drive to the facility, rain braids with sun, the road glints like a new idea. I park and sit for a minute. Breathe. The letter we started with is in a sleeve in the binder and in my memory, but it no longer drives. It rides in the back. Inside, Dad is awake and busy. A volunteer has set up a puzzle near the window. She asks, "Edges first," he says, and I grin because we touch the rim together. His hand is warm and mine is steady. He taps the level beside it, our running joke turned sacrament. The bubble centers like a held breath that finally learned exhale. My brother arrives, a little out of breath, holding 2 coffees. He sees the bowl. He doesn't make a speech. He just says, "That's beautiful," and adds, "You did good." And for once, the sentence lands without looking for a medal. The girls follow, hair damp from the weather. They coo over the shine and ask if they can put mints in it. Treasure, Dad says again, and they nod as if he said the smartest thing all day. Sandra passes by and gives us a thumbs up, and even that simple, cheerful, human gesture feels like a benediction handed out like napkins. We decide, without saying it, to make a ritual. No church, no doctrine. Just then I write a second note and tape it inside the drawer front where only we will see when we open it. Quote, "It's a small graffiti against forgetting. My brother watches and doesn't flinch. Darren stops in, hears what we're doing, and smiles with his shoulders like people do when the world gives them more than their training. He asks if we want a photo. We stand around the tray with the bowl between us like a quiet hearth. No one tries to make us prettier than we are. After, the girls drift to the puzzle. My brother lingers. He shifts like a man trying on honesty and finding it wearable. Listen, he says. Quote, he looks embarrassed by the word. Tempted, he says it anyway. I nod. Thank you, I say. He's not asking me to play guard. He's telling me where his fences are. It feels like accountability, not penance. We watch Dad fit 2 edge pieces together. He misses, then tries again, then gets it. A small triumph with applause built in. Later, I ask Dad about the bookcase again. He tells the story the same way, with the same bright spots and gaps. I don't correct him. I let the gaps be part of the shape. When he is tired, I wheel him to his room and set the bowl where he can see it. Butter and mints nestled like jewels. The level beside it bubble calm as a heartbeat at rest. Quote, I leave the binder copy with Sandra and take mine home. At the house, I stand at the kitchen sink and let water run over my hands until they warm. My husband comes in from the rain, shaking off the day, and sees something in my face loosened. He doesn't ask for a speech. He just stands behind me and becomes a long, quiet wall I can lean on. We eat meatloaf at the table where bills and school forms used to colonize the evenings. The youngest tells me a joke that isn't funny and makes me laugh anyway. I put my phone in the drawer during dinner and forget it there until the dishes are done. No sirens, no emergencies that need me to shrink myself to fit them. After, I pull the practice bowl from the counter and set it beside the sink. Bananas in one, spoons in the other. The ordinary turns out to be a cathedral. I think of the women in waiting rooms knocking quiet truth into schedule-shaped rooms. I say thank you again, aloud this time, and the porch light nods back. On my way home, I stop at the pharmacy for vitamins and pick up a card with a cartoon robin on it. Inside, I write, Dear future me, when the wobble returns, center first, elbows in, hands steady, pressure even, base that holds, quote, I tuck it into the mine tab. It's ridiculous and perfect. At the facility on Wednesday, the woodworking circle shows off their birdhouses in a line along the windowsill. My brother's roof is straight this time. He grins like a boy who got an answer right without cheating. Dad taps each house as if checking for studs. Level, he says to mine. True, he says to his. We agree. On my last visit of the week, I sit by the oak while Dad dozes. The wind moves through like someone learned how to speak gently to leaves. I think about what we survived and what we simply outgrew. Betrayal arrived in an envelope. Reckoning came in a folder. Liberation sounded like a declined ATM attempt and a pencil scratching a schedule. Insight sat on a pottery wheel and turned into a bowl. Reflection, I delete it. Some truths don't need an audience. When Dad wakes, he looks at me like I've been gone 5 minutes and 50 years. I squeeze his hand twice. I'm here. I'm here. He smiles, and for a second, I see the man who carried the other end of every heavy thing and told me to watch my toes. I kiss his temple. I gather my tote. On the way out, I sign the visitor log with a satisfaction that feels like clean counters. The rain has paused. The world smells rinsed. At the curb, I stop and look back up at his window. The bowl catches the afternoon and throws a small bit of it back. It is not a beacon. It is enough. I put the car in drive. The road opens. There's space where panic used to be. Breath settles. And as the first drops return, soft as a benediction on the windshield, I understand the quiet truth I came here to hold. Love is not the person you rescue. It's the level you set. It's the vessel you make. It's the steadiness you practice until it becomes who you are. And with that, I exhale and step into the life that's waiting.